economic front, the current non-sustainable way or the direction that China is changing is really work in the interest of the U.S.
Right.
The reason I say that is in the past, there's no question that the Sino-American trade relation is the U.S. is perennially on the deficit
imbalance,
side.
40 billion, whatever.
And however, because the Chinese change of direction by saying we don't want to be just a world factory. We want to stimulate our domestic consumption. And by doing that, of course, China knows that the industrialization will make their arable land smaller. And their food production is less. And in this way, the U.S. agriculture has a bright future in China.
Oh, yeah. U.S. has a lots of technology and so-called
So
knowledge that is really needed
in China.
In China.
Yeah.
And there's a perfect
so I do
opportunity
not
for
see that the U.S.-China economic relation is on a collision course for the foreseeable future.
But why is then this projection of a military confrontation is going to take place?
I think that if you look at the military, that's the most controversial side. And you can talk from both sides of your mouth. One is say head north, another is say head east, and both of them are right in some way. So I think that if you talk to the U.S. World College or Naval World College or some military people, they always try to think of the scenario that is like a very, very difficult to handle. And it's sort of like if you don't do something drastic, China will become an enemy that you cannot conquer. And then you will be destroyed by them. So you must go first. And it is this kind of fear and the suspicion and the lack of trust that is fanning the anti-Chinese.
But this anti-Chinese sort of essay and debate and so on is also fanning the military buildup.
That's true.
Right? And so which one is cause, which one is the
military and the industrial complex, they need each other.
Right. That's really, in physics terms, is the causality principle. Which one is cause? Which one is the result?
It becomes very interrelated and difficult to distinguish.
Again, let me bring back this sort of a G2 type of things. And the term was created, I think, by Americans, right? I happen to think that this whole marriage model can be a very good one, at least provide some psychological and thinking-wise, how do you maintain the relationship? You probably know, in China, socially, corruption, all that, the problems and so on they have. But there's one term, this word is so sensitive. In Chinese term, it's called Xiao. This is third party in English. This term happened to be socially, critical term because many marriages are, broken, right? Destroyed by Xiao. Right? And there's a lot of stories, news and blogs, and they talk about that. In fact, when somebody corrupted being caught, they always say he has so many of these, extramarital, affairs, which are the Xiao, right? Now, I'm doing this up because, in this U.S.-China relationship, I have observed so far that U.S. seems to be doing something, fits in this model in a way, make Chinese so insecure and so worried, is that U.S. is bringing the third party, to antagonize or provoking the partner so that this marriage is going to go busted. And the Xiao San happened to be, in my view, right now, is Abe Shinzo.
Japan.
Japan.
Yes, I think that I look at it in a similar manner. I feel that the Asian arena, the three players are interrelated in some way. And if we use the human term, it's like a love triangle.
Right.
这是三角恋爱, the love triangle between, namely U.S., China, and Japan. And now the three party, how we feel would be a more stable balance. I believe that it is very hard to say that in the Asian affair, it's a bipolar situation. Japan does play an important role in this relationship, particularly with the U.S. purposely cultivate the Japanese presence and role that U.S. would like Japan to play. And I think somehow being a Chinese American or American citizen, I feel that the U.S. policy of encouraging Japan to be an enemy of China is not the right approach.
Yeah. Well, that's why I use this third-party metaphor to sort of to describe, because what Japan is doing is certainly fanning this hostility between China, Japan, and China and the United States. And the United States sort of encouraged this third-party activity in a way. It's like you have a person using a third party to make the partner either jealous or angry or whatever way, but probably not with the end game, say, destroy the partner, okay?
Yeah.
But the third party may not think that way. That's what based on my reading, like the right-wing party, Japan has now wanted to change constitution and build up military and so on and so forth. And Japan always felt, hey, in Asia, it's me.
Right.
They always feel China should be a supplier, a market to Japan. So if U.S. did not understand this and played this third-party thing, you're going to wreck the marriage, bust everything, because this misunderstanding. You might want Japan just to, sort of as a harmless player in this triangle, but not Japan. They don't think that way. Well, why, for example, when there's a TTP arrangement, right? Japan may not want to join because they feel, comes to Asia, I am it. So if you want to exclude, this TTP actually meant to exclude China, why Japan don't want to join? Because Japan doesn't really want anybody else to be doing this TTP in Asia. This is my view.
Well, the TPP situation, I think U.S. is largely to blame, because U.S. specifically wanted to exclude the PRC's participation, and which I think is very wrong, because how can a trade relation reaching a cordial,
exclude such a large,
harmonious, without excluding the largest trading partner, and outside the TPP? That is simply not correct. So I feel that the go back to that triangle love affair. I feel that a good way to maintain a stable relationship for the world order is for the three countries, the policymakers, to make a equal distance diplomacy, which means that not to getting too close, then and dissociate the third, whether it's U.S.-China relation, dissociate Japan and make Japan feel left out, or the Japan is trying to link U.S. and let China feel left out. Okay,
Yeah.
the thing that play more important out of the three, the more room to maneuver is the U.S.
Of course, and that's why I'm worried about is whether U.S. really understood, okay, historically about the Chinese history, the Japanese history, and all this past 100-some years,
Right.
and the current events where the sensitive nerves really, reside, in different countries. I see the demonstrations in China. I see the demonstration in Japan. I see the parliamentary sort of statements made in Japan and so forth in China. I'm not a politician, but I have my intelligence and I can read between the lines.
Yeah.
I think this third-party play is not controllable by U.S.
I can tie some of your remarks made in the show now is that the Chinese attitude and feeling towards American.
Yeah.
Okay, if you look at the past 150 years, during the Qing dynasty, in the later Qing dynasty, while the first unequal treaty of Nanjing, okay, now the British Empire was the culprit.
Yeah.
Okay, then you 马关条约, the Japanese signed another one which take away Taiwan. Okay, so and then the Russian is doing certain things.
Right.
Now U.S. was sort of like a kid brother.
Was gentle. Was gentle. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Participating, but he's a
bystander.
Weak partner. Yeah, it's sort of riding along and take some of the crumbs.
Yeah.
So, however, if you look at the establishment of the Republic of China, the U.S. was the first who said, I will return the money and I will use this and donate as a scholarship
no
for
question
you to
about
send students.
Yeah. That part of history,
So
Chinese,
that's
so
why
well
Chinese,
taught, so well learned,
right.
They remember forever.
So they say, well, American, among all the evils, are the least of the evil.
Right.
Okay, so that is the World War II. Okay, during World War II, of course, China and Japan
become a love
are
of it,
close allies.
That's the love.
And their common enemy was the Imperial Japan.
Yeah.
Okay, however, the American also continue to remember the Korean War, and that the Korean War is the war that China, out of self-defense, by saying, you may go across the Yellow River and into my northeastern region.
Yeah, similarly, just like we reacted to Cuba. I mean, it's very simple.
It's similar to that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the Korean War and the Vietnam War, the PRC and the U.S. were on the opposite
love
side.
affair sort of goes down.
So that created certain suspicion and certain opposite feelings. Okay. However, if you look at the long history, you would say Japan and the U.S. had this World War II, which was on deadly opposite side, and Japan still remember
and direct attack on the United States,
atomic bomb that U.S. thrown. So, in a way, the love and hate relationship is no lack of historical events.
Right.
And however, when I say that China, whether or not you should worry about the China's uprising and arm themselves to a point, or you worry about the Japanese militarism to rise.
Yeah.
I think these two are somewhat different because I think China's military strength is built out of the concern that they say, I have a vast land, I have the so many border with strong
still
neighbors,
under threat. That's
and
true.
So I need certain defense mechanism. But the Japanese military expansion is a different story because of the Second World War instance that they are so aggressive to the whole Asian region, all the point to the Pearl Harbor in the U.S. territory.
Yeah.
So we see the aggressive nature of the Japan's past.
Yeah.
And therefore, I, as a U.S. citizen, worry more about the uprising of the Japanese
revival of the militarism
versus Chinese building of their military strength.
Yeah. Not only that, I think analyzing the development, in recent history, Japan rise to a second economic power without really having a military, sort of a large military force, because their constitution actually forbid them to build offensive military, so on. They achieved great results, enjoy great results, and I don't see there's any connection that they're being threatened. And the U.S. is landing the mutual treaty, defense and so on. Also shouldn't see that Japan is really under some kind of a threat. Whatever now is being sort of stirred up is Japan's initiative.
Right.
A tiny little island called Diaoyu Tai or Diaoyu Dao. Japan is manufacturing all these things to antagonizing. Even Chinese leader had said, let's leave it alone. Let future generations worry about it. What kind of, sort of a statement you can get out of this? I mean, this is the best for Japan. If you're not aggressive, if you're not really trying to revive your militarism, imperialism, you should be happy with this kind of statement and the status. Because history shows that's part of China. You invaded, you try to occupy it, and so on and so forth. So anybody with any intelligence understand the history. Okay, I'm sure U.S. should understand the history back in the 1895 onward, how this whole thing evolved. And that's why I think U.S. is taking a position that at least not saying territorially this is Japan's or not. But I am surprised today, or recently, John McCain even make a speech in Japan to fan this fire.
Well, he correctly himself.
He did correct himself. I voted for him for presidency. Boy, if he is that kind of person, I am now worried about. Yeah. He might be part of
politician. That's in Japan. He speaks something that Japanese like to hear, and then change the tone when he was in Beijing.
But you still have.
U.S. should stay out. I agree with the administration.
Yeah, but so you have to have principles. You have to have a bottom line. And I think this bottom line statement type of thing, I really feel that China keep on bringing that up, which I think is a very sincere. Well, they say, this is our bottom line. This is our bottom line. Don't push us.
Right, right.
So why is that we don't observe a bottom line and try to be, sort of stay with principles?
I think that now I like to give a little advice to the people of Japan and people of Germany.
Yeah.
These two countries were defeated in the Second World War.
Right.
And both of them have so-called like peace constitution.
Right, right.
And the peace constitution is really saying you have no right to handle world affair by force.
Right.
Okay. Unlike a common country. Mm-hmm. So, however, if you look at the development after World War, who are the most benefited and grow stronger, much stronger?
Yeah, recovery-wise.
Is Japan and Germany.
Sure.
It's still true today, excluding China. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they were benefited.
Exactly my point I made before. Is
nuclear umbrella that U.S. is putting.
Yeah, so Japan benefited.
Don't do the nuclear weapon. You give up your armed forces. I will defend your national integrity and territorial integrity. I even give you more.
Right.
So for that small issue, okay, small because of the size of the island,
Yeah.
that U.S. made a mistake. Okay, it's a generosity on others' property.
Yeah,
That's not right, because it was Chinese. Why you give it to Japan while Japan was a defeating country in the
Right.
Second World War? So that's
strategic
absolutely
mistake. Yeah.
a mistake. And the mistake was because China at that time was split in between the PRC
Weak,
and the
still,
ROC,
yeah.
right? And because of that, and the reason that this mistake was made, unfortunately, was because in the San Francisco Treaty, none of the People's Republic,
Chinese
nor
are
the
excluded.
Taiwan Republic of China participated.
That's true.
So they didn't have a right to air any opposition of that treaty, nor do they have strong enough voice to prevent the U.S. giving the administrative right of Diao Yitai
Right.
and the Liu Qiu to Japan,
Right.
Which was a unfortunate mistake.
Yeah.
And U.S. should not perpetuate such mistake by continually supporting Japan on this particular issue.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
it is wise for U.S. to say, I stay out. You two try to solve this among yourselves.
Right, right. But I think even has to go further. In fact, recently there's a conference in George Washington University calling for a debate on this, strategy, because I think they recognize this mistake and they urge the government rethink the whole strategy. Why should you made a mistake, you can correct it. All right, you don't want to be, keep this mistake and particularly enlarge it. Right. So I feel that on this aspect, the U.S. government does need to sort of rethink and have a, a thorough debate. I think strategically is not good in terms of encouraging Japan to play the role in Chinese term, this Xiao coming in to wreck our relationship and wreck this harmony, this Xiao word.
In the interest of the peace of the world, that U.S. should keep an equal distant diplomacy.
Yeah.
Not playing partial games by lining up Japan and act against China. That's a wrong approach to take.
That's right. And if you really look at recent, of course, Abe Shinzo got reelected. It was very, wide margin and probably in the clouds. But the statements and the activities are going on. I'm sure not only China, U.S. are fully aware and should be concerned. I don't see why we should really encourage a right-wing development to go towards that direction. If you compare Japan and Germany, Germany after the Second World War accepted their defeat, acknowledged their sort of war crime, paid back their sort of war crime by, paying people and so forth. And they benefited from this peaceful stability type of development. They now a strong economy. And Japan never admitted their guilt, never admitted the history of the war crimes. They benefited the same thing as the Germany did. But now they say they want to change their peace constitution. They want to, revitalize the glory of imperial army. This makes everybody worried. If U.S. doesn't worry, I don't see how can we conduct our foreign policy.
Yes, I think originally I did sort of sympathetic to the Japanese effort of saying we need to restore our national
pride, right?
And pride.
Yeah.
But then I look at some of the report saying that Prime Minister Abe went to a celebration of a ship or naming something, and predominantly displayed 731.
Yep.
And that 731 was the chemical weapon secretly developed and suffered they make the Chinese victims
Right.
for that biological warfare.
Yes.
And to use 731 is really a stick
All
in
the
eye.
indication is
And
evil
that
motive.
is a very
It's an
devious
evil motive, right?
And a very vicious
Yeah.
Reference
Yeah.
to a historical
In fact, you
event.
mentioned that we happen to have 2 exhibits about chemical warfare the Japanese did in the Second World War. One in Flushing on September 10th
Wow.
in Queen's Crossing, and one from 10 to 12. And another one is September 11th in New Jersey. And, our mutual friend, Professor Deng is sponsoring and exhibit this.
That's wonderful. I think it's a very timely and appropriate topic.
Right.
And
particularly in
it's
view of
good
the
to
Syria
say
situation.
Now that the Syria situation bring the chemical warfare into focus.
Yeah. Well, Richard, when we talk about these things, when we get sort of into it, time flies so fast. Our 1 hour is coming to an end. Okay. So I really appreciate your coming, and all the way from California. And if any time you come to East again, we'll invite you again to our show.
Thank you, Dr. Tom.
I think this kind of discussion, I can see that you, based on your experience you have very objective view. And personally, I think myself is always objective as well. I read everything, and very little sort of internal, my own opinion, really just analyze things. So this kind of discussion is definitely beneficial, and I hope you and your friends bring them in, and we'll have more this kind of a discussion.
Well, I certainly enjoy our discussion. Thank you very much, Dr. Tom.
Yeah. Are you going back very soon?
Yes, I will be leaving New Jersey for Michigan on Wednesday.
Good. So you're probably going to miss that exhibit on the chemical warfare the Japanese did in the Second World War. I will go to Flushing to see it. It's on September 10th. So I will tell our audience, if anybody interested, it's in Flushing, so-called Queen's Crossing on the ground floor. I think it's a lot of collection, well done framed exhibits. So let's close out. Thank Mr. Chen for this very engaging discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Tom.
Thank you. All right.